环节的主题是区块链的底层技术。论坛的主持呢还是刚刚的丁磊先生，然后论坛的嘉宾是黄连金先生、Alex、Monica Quaintance。有请3位嘉宾上台，以及有请丁磊先生再次上台。
Cool. So I think this panel is about infrastructure. I'm glad that we have this panel. One of the fundamental blocks of adoption, I think we're all starting to converge on, is that we have major unsolved issues for infrastructure. Now, what exactly is infrastructure? Maybe we can start with a little bit of introduction with each of you yourself, and maybe you can talk a little about what do you think is the definition of infrastructure. It could be the blockchain itself, it could be virtual machine, it could be compilers, stable currency, it could be many different things. What is the infrastructure missing component in your mind? So, please maybe start with Ken.
My name is Ken Huang, Chinese name Huang Lianjing. I'm the CEO and founder of the distributed business applications. My company is mainly focused on two things. I think it's really important for the whole ecosystem of blockchain. One is really provide a consulting service, especially on the technology and the security aspect for the blockchain. So the blockchain infrastructure is part of it. Another is really provide the education class to the blockchain company. So these are the major two aspects of my company. In terms of the blockchain infrastructure, I think there's not a very good reference point from the traditional technology. Some people compare the blockchain with TCP/IP. Some people compare the blockchain technology with operating system. I tend to agree more, because there is one company which I work with closely, is called Toda Agorand, TODA Agorand. They try to kind of enhance or modify the TCP/IP stack to support the blockchain. But I think more realistically, I would rather compare this with the operating system. Like you have the Windows, you have the Linux, Mac OS, or mainframe operating system, OS 390. If you compare with this, especially if you look at the Linux, it has many distribution packages, various at least 20 different distribution packages. Then I think you have a close comparison. And also the blockchain is really focused on, if you look at it as a decentralized cloud, like Definity is doing, or decentralized world computer, it's essentially solving the problem in the decentralized way in terms of storage, in terms of the bandwidth, network bandwidth, and also in terms of the computing power. So I would rather, at this point, without clear definition, people giving like a list, we're not giving a clear definition of what the infrastructure of blockchain is. So I would rather do this comparison. Maybe not correct, so my panelists will correct me.
I think that was pretty spot on. My name is Alex Xu. I oversee operations at 0x. We're a decentralized exchange protocol run on the Ethereum blockchain. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a critical piece of infrastructure for decentralized exchange, using blockchain technology. And to answer your question, Tom, I think when we think about infrastructure, we think about it in layers of the stack, right? So for us, we're building on Ethereum at the moment, although the future is to be blockchain agnostic. And I think one layer of the stack, if you're thinking about exchanging these digital assets in terms of ERC20 tokens when it comes to Ethereum, infrastructure means a standard that can be shared across anyone in the world. It should be open, it should be permissionless, and it should be non-rent seeking. And so I think with blockchain technology, for the first time, you can actually have infrastructure that is decentralized and can be used by anyone in the world as long as they have internet access. So I'll keep it short. I think, infrastructure is something really important. There's multiple layers to it, and there's different approaches to it as well. And so the way we're thinking about it at 0x is to create something that's open, free to use, and developers can build on top of it.
There we go. Alex, I love your idea of the stack. I like that image a lot. My name is Monica Quaintance. You heard Will speak earlier. He's the founder of Kaderna. I was his first hire, and I am working on our smart contracts project. And so at Kaderna, I agree with you with this idea of the many layers that are necessary for infrastructure. And the base layer of our consensus protocol is this amazing infrastructure called Chainweb. And Chainweb takes the idea of a proof of work chain and then parallelizes it. And then on top of that, we have our own smart contract language, Pact, that Will talked about a little. And we have this fundamental thesis that your infrastructure includes the people in your organization. That in order to find a solution that will truly work for you in order to develop a project on top of a blockchain, not only do you have to integrate with your existing technology, but you need to integrate with your existing people. You can't have a smart contract language that your team doesn't understand. So we bring the idea of infrastructure all the way up to the smart contract layer, so that not only do you need to have a platform that works from your miners can communicate with each other and you have a proper incentive system and a consensus protocol that's safe, but also a smart contract language that the people that already work on your project can actually understand and use. So for us, an infrastructure project needs to be fast, it needs to have speed, it needs to be secure, you need to know that your information is safe, it needs to be scalable, so actually can provide the kind of services that you need, and it needs to be simple. And this is our thesis for an infrastructure project.
So, Zaki, I'm back. I'd say the biggest challenge of infrastructure, I would say I'd spend 90% of my time dealing with some kind of infrastructure. And that infrastructure ranges from like legal structure, like whether it's a Swiss foundation or a Hong Kong-based not-for-profit, or all of the different structures in which we use to like bootstrap this early phase of blockchain. It's dealing with cryptography and cryptographic standards, and it's trying to standardize all the rapid advancements in cryptography that are happening now. It's about trying to get production systems built and deployed in the real world so we can learn actually what works and what doesn't, and get past like the white paper stage of blockchains. So all of those things are infrastructure, and what's cool is basically that we have this sort of crazy environment where all of these people are loosely coordinated and sort of working towards a kind of a common vision, but everybody in their own way, and everyone is building open source software, and this stuff gets remixed and recombined in completely unexpected ways. So the future is very bright, but I have no idea what it will look like.
Cool. Great answers. So let's talk a little bit of something adjacent. So in order to build infrastructure, we need people, right? Great talents. And it's always astounding to me that when you think about the level of funding in our industry, it's rather unprecedented at the level of development today. We have, I don't know, tens of billions of dollars of funding. Many of them have 100 million plus. Sounds like the average project right now in the space. Now, why haven't we progressed much, much faster? Maybe it's most likely it's talent. Well, can you describe what are the things that your team or you personally would like to do to change that kind of engineering talent, sciences, economists, and etc. If you want to start first, Zaki.
Sure. So Tom and I started thinking about blockchains and hanging out with each other and talking about this 4 years ago. And so the people who are doing this work now, many of them got started when there were not tens of billions of dollars in this, and it was just like a thing we did on weekends. And that knowledge base that we sort of informally built, that sort of has fed a lot of the innovation that we're seeing sort of come to fruition right now, needs, there's a huge surge of new people coming in, but there's very little structure to teach them, to turn them into sort of blockchain engineers. And so I think the biggest challenge right now is taking all of these people, whether they're experienced engineers who are coming to the space, and sort of bringing them up to speed in terms of a vast amount of knowledge that they need, or taking students and teaching them how, but I meet people like, inside the Cosmos project, the youngest person who joined was 17. 17-year-old Korean guy who is just like astounds me every day at sort of how much of this stuff he's been able to pick up. So I think that in many ways the future looks like that. It's still going to be sort of unique people who sort of are drawn to this and learn about it.
I'm really glad you asked this question. It's actually an issue that's really close to my heart. I have been working with Blockchain EDU to establish a project to educate people about blockchain and specifically about bringing more women into the blockchain space. Because if we're at this point where nobody knows anything about blockchain, and then we might as well take this opportunity to grow the proportion of the population who are working on blockchain who are also female at the same time. So I think we have a great opportunity here to expand our educational resources. And we don't need to only bring in engineers. I mean, obviously, as an engineer, I would like to see more female engineers. But we can bring in people of all genders and all colors from not only the engineering space, but there's a whole bunch of interesting things around governance and economics and game theory and all of these other fields that are sort of currently tangential to blockchain. And many industries now have the potential to, as we get a little more abstracted away from actually having to be involved in, oh, well, you know, how does this protocol function? And once we have these abstraction layers, we can also bring in other industries that are interested in using blockchain for use cases in a way that we haven't really been able to do so far because there's been so much work on platforms, so much work on infrastructure. Suddenly you have people in real estate or in insurance or finance that are getting interested in blockchain, which is another great opportunity to expand the space.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Diversity is super important. It's something that more projects should be focusing on. So for us at 0x, I look at the kind of getting talent in a few different ways. The first one being, when you look around the crypto space, you see a lot of projects, right? What I mean by that is a group of people, usually engineers, really smart, they're really passionate about the space, they have an idea, they get together and they create it. And as they scale out the team, even with the massive amount of funding, they continue to be very flat, which is fine. But at a certain point, past 20 or so employees, it gets hard to accomplish things in an efficient manner. And so you have teams that are 50 plus folks, all distributed across the globe, and there's no one managing a team to really do anything, right? So what I think more talent outside of engineering needs to come into this field that actually have operating experience. And, you know, coming from an operations background myself, obviously, you know, I may be a little biased, but, you know, I'm thinking about a tweet that Vitalik wrote a couple months ago about, you know, what has Ethereum actually accomplished in terms of adding more of the unbanked people in the world onto financial institutions or platforms that we have access to. And I think a lot of that can be more focused on by having KPIs, by having more metrics around, if this is your mission, then what are you doing to accomplish it? And by having the right teams and operators in place, you can actually start driving towards that goal. And the last piece is, you know, every project right now is raising tons of money, and it's hard to differentiate what your company is doing versus others. Everyone has this grandiose mission. I think, to speak from a project perspective, finalizing your core values for the company, building a strong culture, and having a strong mission can really appeal to candidates and people from the outside looking in, trying to get into the space. I think a year or two from now, it's going to be about retaining talent too, right? So that's something that's top of mind for us, and I think it's really important for the space.
Yeah, I appreciate my panelists and also moderators thinking about the infrastructure, not just from technology perspective, also from the human perspective. I think it's really good insights here. I think the question is more on the education and the human aspect. I think this is what I see also. My company, I built the company called the Distributed Business Application. The main focus is really to educate and the consulting. So from this, I just want to say one observation that I have is previously the blockchain more is from the open source community. The people are really good at coding and contributing to the open source. those are really very good developers. But they somehow lack the enterprise development experience. Nowadays, there is a change. The people from the enterprise development community, they are moving into the blockchain development. I see this very clearly based on some interactions with big company. And those developers, they have the discipline. Like it's not just getting the code into the door. Frankly or honestly, I would say Bitcoin or Ethereum, they are still in the experimentation stage. They are not really production ready. When you look at the code, like the enterprise application development they're doing, they really want to make sure it's secure, it's has a good performance. One example, like in Bitcoin or Ethereum, if you lose the key, you lose everything. That will not happen in the enterprise environment. You have to have basically have the whole security built around. So if you're losing the key or your password, you can still recover from it. There is, like in US, there's a government application or production. If you have to go to the production, you have to go through the FISMA or Federal Information Security Management Act, the FISMA compliance check. Or if you really in a credit card company, or anything you touch the credit card information, you have to go through PCI DSS. Or if you are in health insurance industry, you have to go through HIPAA in US. I think similarly in China there has a kind of tendency or movement about the Dengbo. In Chinese it's Dengbo. It's kind of the system which you have to meet the standard also for the system to go into production. I would say in the future, not just public chain and also consortium as a private chain, you do need a certain standard. One example is like we're working with some exchange.
Sorry, just to summarize your point, I suppose you're saying that certification and levels, you want to send standardization.
Yeah, I think standardization, the security standard, and the best practice will move into it.
Makes sense. All right, cool. I think we're running out of time, but great discussion. Thank you to our panelists. All right.